Does anybody have any tape out there? I want to put some tape over the death button. My name is Matthew Kroll.
And I'm Mary Poppins. Actually, my name is Shahir Dowd. Welcome to the only podcast about
movies, specifically the film Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Matt, I feel like I don't know what this film's about. I feel like
this is my home. I feel so warm and safe until you try to destroy it. You're like the big bad wolf of my enjoyment.
For those of us watching on Facebook Live, I have a stick right now.
It's a chopstick. It's a metal chopstick.
It's a metal chopstick, and I'm just going to like rap you on the knuckles every time you say something about how great the Marvel Cinematic Universe is.
It's still great. It's still great. Bang. You can't stop me. Bang. Yeah, I've been so excited to talk about this. I'm choking on my bubble tea right now.
How many times have you seen it so far?
Once. I was this close to going again beforehand, and I think I'm probably going to go tomorrow.
Really?
Yeah.
You got some free time?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
But yeah, this is obviously, I believe, the 15th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, if I'm correct. Maybe. Oh, by the way, we are doing a little bit something different. We're doing this on Facebook Live right now, just to our friends, just to test it out. Mm-hmm. So we might talk to some people on Facebook. They might have some questions or things about the film they want to talk about, which would be great.
This will be interesting.
Yeah.
So chime in if you're on Facebook Live right now.
Please
We'd love to hear your questions, or also hear how you can try and distract us from the conversation that we're having.
That would be wonderful. If people aren't on Facebook Live, Shahir, where else can they interact with us?
You can see us, or you can actually find our work at onlymoviepodcast.com. You can email us in onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com, or you can hit us up on Twitter at onlymoviepod. Matt, I had a couple of interesting emails this week.
What? Okay, do them.
First one was from Will, who was the person who requested us do the entire Fast and the Furious series, which I absolutely nixed.
God bless you.
And Will said, thank you very much for using him as the whipping boy for the entire episode. Which, well, I am happy to do.
It was only for the first 10 minutes.
I don't feel like I used him as the whipping boy.
You kind of threw him under the bus.
But Will also wanted to point out, which a little fun fact, which I don't think we talked about. I'd heard about it, but the fact that the end credit sequence in Fast and the Furious, the Fate of the Furious, was released to theaters. Attached, and it was an end credit sequence with Vin Diesel and The Rock, kind of promoting their spin-off movie,
making a better movie.
And apparently, as the gossip goes, I know we're not a gossip show, but as the gossip goes,
we're a gossip show.
We're going to do some gossip. Yeah. Vin Diesel was not happy with this proposition,
scandal,
and got the prints recalled, removed that scene, and then had them put back. Now,
and by print, you mean digital copy, because we're not delivering on prints for most places.
I will say this is a much easier task than it would have been like 20 years ago, where you would physically have to get the print back. Yeah. So this is just a matter of re-upload. It's basically like on Vimeo when you replace the file. That's pretty much what they did.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a feeling, this is my personal feeling, that the Vin Diesel Rock feud is entirely manufactured for our viewing pleasure.
Is it? But what about this? Isn't him taking it back like that? Or do you think that's not even true?
I think maybe it's true, but maybe for another reason. And here's the thing: if you're a person getting paid $20 million per movie or something like that, and you're a professional in your field, maybe you don't do these kinds of things. I feel
counter argument. Famous people are crazy sometimes.
That is true. There's a really fantastic article right now. Again, we don't do gossip, but there's a really fantastic article.
But if we did,
I can't remember which publication had it, but it was a really terrific article about Johnny Depp's finances, and it's basically about like Johnny Depp doesn't understand how much money he has or doesn't have, and he's in real financial trouble.
Okay.
And like it had something in the vicinity that his monthly expenses are in the vicinity of $2 million a month.
Pirate.
And he spends $50,000 on wine. Yeah, definitely pirate. Yeah. And fine art.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that makes me sad. But then at the same time, I'm like, I'm fascinated by the lives of people with a lot of money, whether they be celebrities or actors.
If only we had a gossip show. But I will say this, listeners out there, if you work at a theater, if you've ever worked at a theater and Fast 8 came down, your Fate of the Furious came down your pipe, and write us in, tell us if this is actually true, because I would really be interested to know if there was a little bit of a weird, stupid recall.
I mean, I mean, there's enough people talking about it that I'm sure it's happened. But then there are funny, interesting cases. There was the case recently of Sinbad. Did you know Sinbad, the actor from back in the day?
Yeah, Jingle All the Way. Jingle All the Way is Sinbad.
People misremembering that Sinbad was in a certain movie. I didn't quite read the entire article, but it was like people believe that Sinbad was in this one particular movie, and it turns out he was not. So maybe it's a case of like someone said it, people believe it, and it's become a thing. Who knows? I don't know. I wanted another email that came in just today, and this is one email that I was just very proud of. It was a message on Facebook from listener Jacob.
So that's technically not an email. I just had to say it.
Right. Semantics.
Yep.
Who had like a film emergency.
He did. It was great.
It was great. He was like, I have a film emergency and I need your help, Shahir. And he was asking me for the name of a film for a trailer he had seen a while back.
I was watching this happen live, by the way.
And I knew it. And I was like, as soon as he said it, I knew what the film was.
It was a Cate Blanchett film, right?
Yeah, it was a Cate Blanchett film called Manifesto. He was looking for a trailer for a movie where a single actress played multiple characters.
Yep.
And the first movie that came to mind was a film called I'm Not There about Bob Dylan, which Cate Blanchett was in and Christian Bale was in, and a few other actors played different versions of Bob Dylan. But it was Manifesto, and I knew it, and I felt very much like I was needed.
And that's important to me. And then you said you should start charging for it, and then I charged him 8,000 space bucks, and we're still waiting on that.
8,000 space bucks. Is that my going rate?
Yeah, right for now.
So if you have
I get 15% of that though.
If you have a film related question and you are in the dire emergency needs of a film nerd, please reach out to us on Messenger on Facebook, or again at onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com, Twitter at onlymoviepod.
Yeah, our Venn diagrams of film knowledge are both very different, so most likely we'll be able to answer your question. Or questions in the chat right now. Right now, all we got is Vince saying you got it, which is great. What up, Vince? And also Will Deloney, Groot, just screaming out Groot.
Okay, so Matt, we're moving on to Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, hell yeah, we are.
Listen, and this is something I need from you. To be honest with you, I need you to tell me what happened in Guardians of the Galaxy 1.
Why?
Because I completely forgot about it the minute I walked out of that movie theater. And I'm not being facetious. I'm not being like, oh, this movie's so crap and I hate it. I had a perfectly good time in the first movie. I thought it was a perfectly fine film. But it was one of those ones where I was like, I have entirely forgotten what this movie was about. And
I mean, do you just want me to give you the full break? I mean, what?
No, of course I don't. No, this is a review about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I just want you to give me a brief recap, because as I walked into Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, I was like, oh yeah, what had happened in the first one that I should bring into this movie?
So Peter Quill was taken from Earth when he was like 8 years old by the Ravengers, by Yondu, and you don't really know why. He was just taken after his mother died, and then he had a series of adventures. He grew up, he was a Ravenger, and then he was trying to screw over Yondu because he got a deal to get this orb, and which turns out to be one of the Infinity Stones. Okay. Then he meets up with all the other ones based on like there's a bounty on people's heads, blah, 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 and they go to a prison. That's where they finally meet everybody, including Drax, and then they become friends because they realize that the Infinity Stone, first they're trying to sell it, then they realize it's too powerful because Ronan, the Accuser, is trying to use it. Originally working for Thanos, but then he betrays Thanos near the end once he gets the gem, the Infinity Stone, and then they have to stop Ronan from touching down on the Nova Corps' home planet, because with the gem he can basically destroy the whole planet the second he lands on the planet, and then they stop him because they are the Guardians of the Galaxy.
They become, it's kind of like the Wild, or even Rashomon or something like that. Sure, they kind of come together. Yeah. There's no like official meeting. There's no like UN convention that requires them to come together.
The nice thing about it, especially the first one, and
the usual suspects as well.
Yeah, the really nice thing about the first film in this series is they're coming together. The script was so great, like it felt natural. There was never a moment where I was like, why the fuck is this person here?
So you're talking about the Suicide Squad problem.
Yeah. So they did it really well, and something I really loved about this movie, and we'll get into it in a little bit, but like is it continued that sort of narrative of why these characters are in each other's lives. Okay. And but yeah, so that's all you. Oh, and then there was a little mystery about like when the Ravagers flew away, and Yondu's like, oh yeah, why didn't you ever deliver that kid to his father? He's like, oh, that guy's an asshole, and then like, you never know who Peter's father is, and he survives holding an Infinity Stone, which means he's a little more than human. Okay. That's the only real shit you need to know going into this.
Okay. I mean, and this is going to get into my overall thoughts about Guardians of the Galaxy, but was there anything of consequence that happened in that first film that is absolutely necessary for the second film?
No, I don't think. I mean, other than knowing the characters.
Right.
Maybe the idea. that Peter Quill is more than human and his father is unknown.
Okay. All right. And are you a big Guardians of the Galaxy comic book reader?
No, never was.
Never was?
In fact, I think the reason why the world sort of fell in love with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 was that this is the Marvel cosmic universe in the comic books. Like this, I mean, there are diehards, of course, but like there's nowhere near the popularity of the other stuff in the MCU. So when I heard that they were doing this, I didn't know what to expect.
Right.
I don't think anyone did. And then it was good. And then it was like, whoa. Yeah. Like, that's very strange that they managed to pull this off in a very fun way.
Why is that strange? They're like 10 films deep into like
because it's
the biggest franchise on the planet.
At the time, it was the weirdest thing they'd done.
Right.
And now, but that proved that they could do it. And obviously,
but if there's
James Gunn is fucking great.
You know what's funny is you and I were at PAX at a convention sometime a while back.
East or West?
I believe it was East, and I said something, and you kind of looked at me kind of aghast, and you were like, "You don't believe that?" And I was like, "No, this is what I believe." And I think what I said was, the Marvel are very good at what they do, and you were like, "No, you don't. You hate the Marvel movies." And I was like, "No, I don't hate the Marvel movies."
I'm still a bit aghast right now. Okay.
I think Marvel are very, very good at what they do. It doesn't mean I like
Wolverine, the best at what he does, but what he does isn't very nice.
Is that a thing?
That's a Wolverine quote.
That's a thing? Yeah. Okay. No, that's not what I mean.
Zoe knew.
But you were surprised that I thought that Marvel did a good job at what they did. But Marvel do a good job of producing these movies and catering to their fans. Mm-hmm. They without a doubt do.
Sure.
I think my issue is I think I was thinking about this today.
You were thinking about thinking?
I was thinking about thinking.
Think about that thought.
I was thinking about thinking today. And I'm going to pull up a quote from Matt Singer, who wrote an article about the potential fatal flaw in Hollywood's business models. And he wrote this quote. He wrote, some of these cinematic universes are so concerned with connecting to past films and setting up future ones that they start to look like just as serialized as television. Except this kind of television isn't as intricately plotted and doesn't have enough time to fully develop rich characters.
Disagree.
Instead of binging it over the course of the weekend, you have to wait 2 years between episodes. Mm-hmm. And I think the thing with the Marvel Cinematic Universe to me is that the Marvel Cinematic Universe to me is what the A-Team was and what television was back in the 80s, which was serialized episodic television. And the thing is, like, now we look back and we go, oh man, wasn't the A-Team cool? Wasn't Quantum Leap cool? Wasn't Star Trek cool? Wasn't all these shows we used to love back then cool? But we don't necessarily remember individual episodes. We just kind of remember liking the show. You know what I mean? And I think to me,
I think that's subjective.
Of course it's subjective. You're saying that everything I'm saying is objective?
Subjective.
I know. Yeah. Of course it's subjective. I think that's a given. So what I think is that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is very good at what they do. They make a ton of money. They please a lot of people. I find most of the movies kind of unmemorable. And I find the thing is that for movies that are built on spectacle, I tend to not. I don't find there's very, very little in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that makes my jaw drop or makes me go, wow, that was amazing. I think it's very, very good. It speaks to a certain audience. I also kind of think that the reason they exist is to present us the characters.
Yes.
They don't exist to present us a movie. They exist as a reminder of who these characters are.
Now that I think that's just kind of super semantical. Of course they're making a movie, and we've gotten into and I don't want to get into this argument again. About what is a movie.
Yeah.
Of course they're movies.
Right. I think you
redefine what you mean by they're not doing it to make a movie.
Right. So Jurassic Park is a movie to me. Right? Jurassic Park is a solid. There's a reason this story exists.
Sure.
There's a reason they've come together.
Good story. They want to tell it.
They've come together to tell this story.
Yeah.
Jurassic World is a reminder that the Jurassic Park franchise exists. It's not necessarily a movie. It's a marketing exercise.
The reason this is the difference, and I think this is where we sort of split. Jurassic World. The reason it might have become a thing, I agree with.
Yeah.
But it actually, once it's a thing and once people are working on a thing and all of the hands that touch that thing, it is now its own thing.
Okay, but you're talking again about the cultural product, right? I'm talking about the reason it exists. And,
sure.
And what I'm saying is it's akin to it's akin to making a T-shirt of a movie. You know, like it's not necessarily the thing itself. It's just there to remind us.
No, because they're actually making a movie. They are. I mean, you can't deny that.
Right.
It's in a movie theater. We're watching it. You paid however many dollars if you're in New York. It's insane. And then you're watching a film on the big screen. It's a movie. Now, why it exists? Sure. But again, we've talked about this before. Both reasons have value. Like it doesn't, you can't, I don't see a logical way to say.
That's okay, and I accept that. I accept that point. Do you accept that say for example, a Guardians of the Galaxy 1 doesn't have as much reason to exist as a Mad Max Fury Road?
Wait, say that one more. You're saying
okay. Why don't I pick a non-franchise film?
Sure.
Guardians of the. I'm looking at the posters of movie franchise.
Sure, that we've done on the wall behind us that no one on Facebook Live can see because we have the worst possible camera angle of our studio. We do have Mega, our skeleton over there. It's very
actually, none of these are good examples for you. But okay, no. The reason that Guardians of the Galaxy exists is not the same reason that Arrival exists.
No. Okay, so here
and I accept your conjecture that there are two different reasons for being.
Could the Hollywood system as it stands now, would they have ever made a Guardians of the Galaxy movie had the Marvel Cinematic Universe not proven a pedigree?
Yeah.
No, they never would have because it's crazy and who the hell knows who these are unknown characters, who gives a shit. But this is the great thing about it. This is one of the strengths of the thing, and I know you list a lot of the weaknesses of things that happen with these franchise building things, but because they proved themselves, even from a straight up monetary reason, then the purse string holders were like, you know what? Yeah, let's give this a go. They've done 8 great jobs. Like let's go.
Yeah.
And I would have never gotten Guardians of the Galaxy, a movie that, and I will defend this to anyone. When Guardians of the Galaxy 1 dropped, it took its place. Like it took the mind place that Star Wars used to hold for me.
I've heard a lot of people say that
it's the spiritual successor to Star Wars. And the new Star Wars movies I like, and I enjoy them. But like this is my update. This is my like Star Wars for the times. I would have never gotten that. At the level of expertise that they gave it to me, I would have never gotten that had Iron Man not been a huge hit.
For different reasons, I would say to me the spiritual successor of Star Wars is Lord of the Rings, but that's a bigger, broader discussion.
I just meant space opera.
Yeah, you meant a space opera. Sure. Yeah, why not? You say you're going to defend this. I was like, no one's attacking this point. You know, no one's going to.
Great.
No one in
the chat. No one in the chat wants to. Okay.
No one's going to have conjecture about this point.
Sure.
But you know, I guess that's my feeling right now. And I enjoyed the first Iron Man. I actually watched it again recently because it was popped up on Hulu.
Sure.
And I enjoyed it. I felt like the thing about it is it sets up the formula. And, you know, it sets up what the formula is for the rest of these movies. Yeah. If we get into Guardians of the Galaxy Part 2, I'll actually say I quite enjoyed it.
Unexpected.
I enjoyed the film. I enjoyed it in this sense. What I really, really liked about it was the lack of attempt to connect it to a broader Marvel Cinematic Universe. There was never any moment where they were like, oh, Thanos is coming around the corner or something like that, or that we're not going to see, but it'll be teased out later on.
I was glad we didn't see.
There were little things, but they weren't central to the overall plot.
Yep.
What this felt like to me was a really. I actually put it on par with Star Trek Beyond. I put it on par with Star Trek Beyond, which is that it's fun, it reintroduces you to the character, it tells a story within that universe, and then it moves on. And I think that's its strength to me, is that it works in that way. I will say this, and this is completely biased. I've been binging Rick and Morty recently.
Again, haven't seen it yet.
It's fan-frickin-tastic. Rick and Morty is amazing, and there are many episodes that felt similar to the plot line of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. But there's a thing with Rick and Morty, and I don't know if it's a time or an irreverence or the animation style or whatever, where your jaw drops literally in almost every episode with how clever they take the story, where they take it from one echelon to the next, to the next, to the next. And I kind of was like, The thing about Guardians that I was kind of like, oh, this is interesting, is that it doesn't do that. It kind of knew where it was going.
I think it does that in one or two instances. It's not going to drop your jaw based on plot a ton. I think there's a couple moments we can get into it as we go through that I thought were really strong, and I was like, oh wow, okay.
So as a fan, Matt, what did you think of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 in relation to your fandom for Volume 1?
Sure. I obviously really liked it. Everyone is always obsessed with, is it as good as the first one? No, because again, just like the Avengers Age of Ultron definitely isn't as good as the first Avengers movie. Right. It's because, that has other problems too. Let's not even get into that. But like it's because it's something that you didn't know would be so amazing. It comes along and instantly your expectations aren't high enough, and then whoa, like that's so good in your own. If you like that sort of thing.
Are you talking about repetition though? Like, is it not good because it's repetitive? No.
It's because something came out of nowhere. It's because it's something that is just literally like because you're like, oh, this might be good. Who the hell knows? And then it knocks it out of the park. So now you have this high bar, and you're like, oh man, if they do another one, you really have to go apeshit and really go ahead. This movie didn't give me the same sort of like holy shit feeling. Maybe the Rick and Morty thing that you're describing as the first one did.
Yeah.
But its strengths for me came from other unexpected and really appreciated places. And that is the character dynamics between not only just one group or two groups, but like it does something that I feel like a little bit for a second, for at least this film, bucks the Marvel the Marvel style or mold or whatever you called it, because there's a lot of things. There was I've been reading some articles online.
Wait, you've been reading a bunch?
Yeah.
You've been doing a bunch of reading?
Just reading a bunch.
Yeah, doing a bunch of reading.
And it was talking about how, like, you know, the mold was like, okay, superhero, then doubt, then like female love interest, then like whatever the hell, then bad guy, then whatever, right? And it's sort of like this, like a slight romance thing in it, and then whatever. And then Avengers came along and it did something a little bit different, but not quite. And then what Guardians, especially Guardians 2 does, Guardians 2 doesn't fall into that sort of weird standard hero trope. It falls into a different trope altogether. Instead of focusing on like one romantic relationship as sort of a main, it focuses on a familial relationship.
Me familiar?
Yeah, it's me familiar. And more so than obviously Fast and the Furious or whatever, but like, because every character has not only reason to be there in the plot and whoever gives you, but like their interactions, even though it's a raccoon and a baby tree and a giant just tattooed dude and a green woman and basically a kid that was ripped out of the like late 80s, they all interact with one another in not only realistic ways, but in ways you can relate to with family, even, and we'll get into it a little bit, but even Gamora and Nebula, or even to the point when it got to Drax and Mantis, there was some interesting stuff, and I'll talk about it. But I really appreciated the care, and then the father issues, obviously from all different sides. I appreciated the care and the time it took to actually deal with character as opposed to just spectacle. Is there a lot of spectacle in this movie? Sure.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, again, I have to keep going back to Fate of the Furious, where like it's like setup and spectacle the entire fucking time. This was like, okay, action piece. That was fun. Oh, now we get to see them hanging out and doing whatever. And then, okay, action piece. And okay, now it's different characters interacting based on where they are. And it's like, it gives it enough time to breathe, where not only you have a moment away from the action, which is always nice, but you get in these characters' heads. And I think James Gunn does such a phenomenal job balancing all these plates.
I'm very impressed by James Gunn directing this film. I've seen Slither.
So that's great.
I've seen Slither, and I haven't seen Super.
Super is, you have to, how do I put it? It's an acquired taste.
Sure. I mean, I'm sure he himself is an acquired taste coming out of the Trauma School of Filmmaking.
But I mean, I would suggest anyone sees Super, because you're going to either love it or be like, I fucking hate this movie. Like, there's no middle.
It felt like another version of Kick-Ass, which had come around the same time.
But like, not even like, it's hard to sort of it's hard to sort of put it in that thing, because Kick-Ass is almost parody, and this isn't parody. This is it's different.
Okay, so we've talked about the film for a little while. We've kind of given our first impression. We haven't talked about what and I think this is probably telling about these kinds of movies. What is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 about?
Well, if you go to IMDb, as we're apt to do,
Yeah.
Here we go. Set to the backdrop of awesome mixtape number 2, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 continues the team's adventures as they unravel the mystery of Peter Quills' true parentage.
That doesn't. I know IMDb is not the best reference for
it's the worst
story synopsis, but doesn't that sound like a description of the A-Team as a show?
It sounds like an episodic. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I think it is. You know, and I think the way to enjoy this is to think of it as an episodic. This is a new episode in the Guardians of the Galaxy episodic.
I mean, sure.
Yeah.
But I feel like this is what I feel like you're doing. And correct me if I'm wrong.
What am I doing?
You're trying to sort of set up sort of small agreeances so you have like one large major point that you can come back with.
Stab
me in the back and take the fun away, Shahir.
I have no overarching Thanos-like plan, which I won't reveal to you.
Then why are you wearing that giant gold gauntlet?
I mean, look, it's the Infinity Rings had to go somewhere.
You made rings out of them?
Yeah.
So fashionable.
No, I think I agree that it is it's a fine episode of television.
It's better than that.
Is it?
Yeah, 100% it is. Because
here's a question for you: is it better than the second to last episode of Game of Thrones this year?
Ooh, I'm on the spot. Let me. You know what? Yes, but no. You know what? Here we go.
Better than
I got it.
It's better than the war.
Better is a weird fucking scale. Just follow me down this
because
nightmare
you're the one
hole.
who said that.
I know
that it's better than television.
Listen, but like the better is the term that's weird because this movie is. I had more fun.
Okay.
Watching this movie than I did watching that. Okay. I had more of a jaw-dropping. Oh my god, this is phenomenal. Mm-hmm. With Game of Thrones, the Battle of the Bastards is what you're talking about.
So as we've established in this entire podcast, is that your barometer for what is good? Fun.
If my barometer changes knowing what I'm going to watch because I can differentiate the difference between just art that's impressive for, oh my god, this artist had something really deep and meaningful to say and they've made it to just put it in whatever medium and it's beautiful on the screen, or they didn't quite make it, or just like, holy shit, this is made to just made me to evoke feelings either of fun or sadness or happiness or whatever you want to talk about. I can differentiate why a thing is there and why I'm there experiencing it.
Okay, but can those things overlap in the Venn diagram of your life?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Can a beautiful piece of art or something that is meaningful or transcendent, or even as we discussed in our episode 100, would definitely be a film of the time to last the eons afterwards, could that also be fun?
Yeah. But again, now again, yeah, there's no Thanos plan. Sure there isn't. But the point I'm trying to make, and we should actually get into the film in a little bit, is just because there is a peak, a unattainable or very lightly attainable sort of cinematic precipice that you can just reach, and it's the ultimate best in every part of this Venn diagram that we've been describing as to what enjoyment is. Mm-hmm. That doesn't take anything else away from things that don't make it there, because otherwise both of our favorite tropes, like troughs of films, wouldn't count.
Of course not. But then I totally agree with you on that. That's a completely acceptable point. What I'm curious about is how do we read this film for our audience? How do we present this film for our audience? And to me, I present it as a very good episode of television, if you remember television from the 80s.
But the way you say these things,
I love Quantum Leap from the 80s.
That's great. That's great. Look, we'll talk to Ziggy after the show. But the way you say these sort of things is not the same way that, say, you speak about O.J. Simpson, Made in America.
Because to me, O.J. Simpson Made in America is advancing the art form in a way that is
really long.
No, profound.
Oh, it's so not. But
okay, it's not.
I don't think it's advancing it. I don't want to get too much in. I'm sorry, I even said it. It's not advancing it. It's not advancing it in a super profound way. It's a very detailed, well done documentary. I've seen very detailed, well done documentaries before.
Okay, I mean you can pick, but okay, we have to go back to the sentiment of what I'm saying.
Yes, go back.
Which is
Pull me back.
Say Terminator 2 is profound. It is a profoundly epochal film which changes the way in which we look at cinema.
Sure.
And I agree. Not everything can be Terminator 2. You know, like
if only.
If
only any other Terminator film could be Terminator 2.
I didn't. You know what? I didn't hate Terminator 3. I didn't hate it.
I did.
But anyway,
Sarah Connor Chronicles, first season of that, excellent.
Right. So I'm just saying, like, I enjoyed my time at the movie. I thought this was a very colorful film. I'm very impressed by James Gunn's his ability to do comedy in a rat-a-tat style. He's just got a great sense of comedy,
yes,
which I thought was excellent. But is this a profoundly great film? It's an okay film. To me, it's like, if we're going to go into my overall thoughts of the film before we move on, it's a solid B+ movie. B+, maybe A- if I'm feeling generous.
And I'm not going to go and say this is like a perfect thing. I have issues with it, kind of a little bit nitpicky all over the damn place. If we want to talk about the negatives real quick before we get into actual story.
Sure.
The first third of it felt a little bit weighted oddly to me, and almost to the point of, I know I've talked about this on when we talk about Drive, how I feel like the shots went on like a frame, or not a frame, like a second too long each, and that knocked the pacing off of the entire thing. I don't know if it was the theater I was in. I was wondering if it was a mixing issue or not.
Okay.
But the first third of the film, every sort of the way it was cut together, something in my editor brain was entirely off. Like it felt like even the way that there's a scene in the beginning, if you've seen the trailers of this thing, there's a giant monster coming down and they have to fight it, and Star-Lord and Gamora have an interaction where it's basically like, is that a rifle? And she's like, yeah, you don't know what a rifle is? It's like, I thought swords were your thing, but I guess you're doing guns now. That's cool. Like, it's this sort of like back and forth, like kind of, weird little cute moment of like, you can kind of see they don't know where they stand with each other.
Sure.
In the trailer, it's paced perfectly. Like the pacing of the joke and the audio and everything works. I felt like when I was watching the movie, I was like, this doesn't feel like, something is off. Like the pacing is slightly askew. Okay. And then about a third through, like after that battle and maybe the next couple scenes, it wasn't even that I got used to it because I was actively looking for it. Yeah. It just stopped. And I was wondering if maybe that was like an audio syncing issue in sort of the beginning.
Did you watch it in 3D?
No.
So I watched it in IMAX 3D.
Oh, wow. How was that?
I didn't, like IMAX 3D has a tendency to flatten things out and make things feel kind of like cardboard. The term
like they're dimming the lights on you, fucking like nine stops.
So I saw it at the Lincoln Center, and they have a new laser projector, which means the film was super bright. It was incredibly bright. It looks great.
The laser.
There's a sort of theatrical quality to 3D, especially at that scale, where the correct term is 2.5D, where it's not a three-dimensional object; it's objects in three-dimensional planes.
Yeah.
So it kind of, to me, it's not the ideal way to watch the movie. But there's something kind of flat about it. And I wonder if the reason you're thinking about the pacing that way is that the film was kind of cut for 3D in mind, like where
possibly, and especially that scene, the first scene where they're fighting that giant monster is
I love that first shot. The first shot with Groot kind of doing his thing. And what I love about that is I love the irreverence of what James Gunn is doing there, which is that there's a big action sequence happening, but we don't need to see it because it's not that important.
We're kind of getting sort of into the movie, but it opens with them. They've been hired to stop this interdimensional monster from eating a power source on a planet. Yeah. And so they're all there. They've been hired out because they're basically guns for hire. And when this monster shows up, instead of seeing the battle that this monster has, you see Baby Groot plug in a stereo system that Rocket was working on to, quote, listen to tunes while we fight this thing.
Yeah.
Then they fight, but you only see Baby Groot dancing, and every once in a while you'll see like a character fly by or do something else and sort of interact with Baby Groot in a little bit of way. I
think it's fun.
I thought it was great, and it was a nice way to twist that sort of spectacle. This is my second gripe with the movie, though.
Okay.
It tried to rely too much on callbacks to its old favorite jokes. And one of the first times I noticed this, and it was definitely too much.
Now I might not have had a problem with this because
you didn't remember
because I forgot the first.
So at the end of Guardians 1, when Groot's destroyed and he's in a little plant and he's in a little pot, he's dancing to Jackson 5 song, and every time and in the background, Drax is polishing his knives, and then he's little baby Groot's dancing, and then Drax.
Yeah, why does Baby Groot need to hide his?
Well, this is the thing. There's no reason for it. No. So in that little post credit sequence,
I remember
Drax
that.
looks over and he freezes because it's funny, and it's like, okay, whatever, that's cute.
But there's no reason.
No. So now in this one, when Baby Groot's running around. And people have been thrown in front of him, and he gets out of the way. He waves. The most adorable thing I think in this movie is when he waves. He always waves at Gamora, and this time she's like, "Hi!" and like she shoots again and jumps off. And I thought that was adorable. When Drax hits the ground, Baby Groot just stops dancing.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh, because there was a joke in the first one, and I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of that, and that I felt was a real detriment because all of the new jokes and all the new interactions were so strong. You don't have to go back to the well of that level, especially right in the beginning. So that kind of threw me a little bit.
Okay. I have to say, Baby Groot is adorable. And as a dad with a toddler at home, I think the animators and whoever did work on Baby Groot knows and understand the things that toddlers do, because there were so many like moments where I was like, it's endearing to me as a dad that this character is in the middle of turning and seeing a wide-eyed Groot kind of like eating popcorn
and it adds to the familial issues in the movie because now they literally all of them together are responsible for basically a child,
right?
And it adds to a different level of.
I don't feel they're that responsible as parents.
They're not. No, I'm not saying they're responsible, but they are. I'm not saying they are actively responsible, but they are. It's basically their kid,
right?
And like even with the part later on when they get taken away and all that stuff. So it's just like. That's just another aspect to this, and because they deal with family politics very well in this movie. That's a space nonsense film.
Did they deal? So here's the the initial conversation that we were having. I think this is where this will come into play for us.
Sure,
is I think they have good dynamics in this film. Like I think characters play off each other well. We know who they are and how they identify, and the hostilities between them, and the points at which they like each other. Does it deal with that in any sort of meaningful or interesting way? I think the only issue that it does deal with, there was one point at which I thought, oh, this film is doing something interesting with this idea. And it's one where I was like, is this a contradiction to the first film, or is this kind of like segueing?
Do you want to wait till we get to it, or do you want to?
No, I want us to jump around.
So are we doing spoilers now?
Oh, that's a fair point. Yes, this would be a spoiler. Okay, I'll do it very briefly. It deals with the topic of parentage.
Parentage. Is there a difference? Parentage.
Yeah. Whatever.
You're not from around here.
This is like your what did you say? Biopic. Which makes no sense to me.
I know. No, I know that's wrong. I just do it. Yeah. It's parentage.
Parentage. So it deals with parentage. No, actually, I realize that I'm saying.
We can say, look, we all don't have to pronounce things the same way.
Okay.
We're all.
It deals with
different.
It deals with the topic of parenting in an interesting way, and I think it comes to a conclusion about it that is interesting. And I was affected by it. I thought it was touching.
He may be your father, but he's not your daddy.
But yeah. And I wasn't sure if this was a contradiction to what we knew about that character.
Not at all.
Towards because the way, again, and I was kind of like struggling to remember his role in the previous film. And also, but then I was remembering in this film, they talk about him beating him and him telling him he's going to eat him, and, him using him to like, get his little hands into places like they did in Snowpiercer. I was kind of like, oh, is this...
So what Shahir is talking about...
I guess my question is this retconning an emotional trope into a thing that doesn't necessarily make sense?
It is not.
Tell me why.
Because, okay, so moving on a little bit, now we'll sort of get into full spoilers as we sort of go through.
I think we've identified our topics, right? Like we've identified our positions on
Sure. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think I talked about all my grievances. As far as some other things I really like. I love how colorful it is. I think it's a really pretty movie. I think that and we'll talk about this, I think later. This will probably be more of an end conversation because I know we both have sort of differing things, and we actually have a letter we're going to read in from one of our friends.
Yeah.
But the music, I loved the music, and I loved the choices in the way that the music was used yet again. Also, both from a meta story standpoint and actually like why it's being played in the thing, because Peter Quill has these tapes from his mother. I like when things can tie in lightly like that. Regardless. Yes.
I think they overplayed that a little bit in this film. To me, it felt like a device that had narrative purpose in the first film because it was about his mother, and like this tape is the last memory he has of his mother. In this one, it was kind of like, hey, have you got that tape? Like for some reason, at one point, Rocky Raccoon says, hey, have you got
Rocket Raccoon?
Rocket Raccoon. I'm just remembering the Beatles song.
Yep.
Says, have you got the tape that Peter always plays? And I was like, why are you doing that? Like, what is
because
that?
They like the music.
But it has no reason to be as much as it did in the first film.
But I don't need them to remind me in this film that this is because Peter's dead mother liked these. Like I just don't. It's a fun trope that they've built and now they can use.
But now it's a device. Now it's just kind of like a thing.
But it's done very well. Again, you want to look at how not to do it. You look at Suicide Squad. You want to look at how to do this, whether or not you like it. This is the way you do this.
Sure. I guess my only comment about the music is. James Gunn does a very good job of selecting music. He chooses music that works very well in the scenes. I will say a little bit like Suicide Squad, but better than Suicide Squad. Much done in a much better way.
In every way.
Is that none of the music choices are surprising, and they're not, and they also don't necessarily tie into what we're seeing in an unobvious way. Like they're very obvious choices to me.
Sure. Okay, so that's kind of a weird, and I don't want to be combative, but that's a very sort of pretentious way to look at a musical choice, I think. So something needs to be incredibly clever for it to have emotional resonance for you when a song hits during a part of a movie, that it needs to be like this. So like, oh my God, I would have never thought to use this song this way. Like, can't it be sort of like, oh fuck, never break the chain? Mm-hmm. Like that makes total sense because what's going on right now, if done well. You can obviously do it poorly.
Yeah.
This was done well.
I think I said that. This is done well. But I think what I'm saying is that the music choices feel in a weird way obvious to me because there's such known songs. So for example, when Quentin Tarantino did Little Green Bag in Reservoir Dogs, for example, that was a song that's not in the popular consciousness.
Sure.
And that is a song that he brought back specifically for that film. It was unique to that film. Another person I think who does it really well is Wes Anderson. Wes Anderson uses music in a way that's really, really affecting. And it's like, it's always like a song where you're like, oh, I haven't heard that song, or I haven't heard that in a while, or I haven't heard that used in this way. It kind of transforms the way we understand the usage of that song.
But I haven't heard these songs used in this way either. I mean, these are not current songs. These are not songs that are in everyone's public lexicon. But they're known songs. Like they're used, the Fleetwood Mac song you're talking about is used in Super Bowl commercials. Yeah.
It's to me, it's like a good usage of library music. That's what it is to me. It's very, very good.
Sure, but I think it transcends that sort of statement due to the fact there is narrative ties to it.
In the first film. But you
were asking, are there things you need to know going into this one? Right. This might be one of those things that sort of if that makes it work more for me. Peter Quill has musical tastes. Mm-hmm. He has brought these musical tastes to his surrogate family, and now they're used to hearing all these songs, and now they like hearing the songs, and it makes sense, and they use them in proper moments of the film. It just works for me. I don't think it needs to be anything sort of other than that.
I agree, but I guess I wouldn't give it like, oh my God, they've done this thing amazing. They've done it very well, and it's kind of good. You know what I mean?
I think it's better than good. Right. I don't know, but then again,
it's very no. You're right.
Different folks.
It's very good. It's very, very good, but it's not like. Like I say, Quentin Tarantino using Little Green Bag, or it's not like the way in which Wes Anderson reconstitutes David Bowie's music for The Life Aquatic. It's not that kind of level of transcendent where you should really go, oh wow, this is a thing. It's very good.
Some of them did that for me though, man. Like the use of Chain, the use of I have a list right in front of me. It was, what was it? What's it? The My Sweet Lord, when they get to Ego's planet.
Here's an example that is transcendent and wonderful. The trailer for Logan, which uses the Johnny Cash Hurt.
Yep.
That is a use of that song that is...
It's also a trailer, so it's different.
But it's really good. Like that makes you rethink about that song. It perfectly accompanies what that moment is about. That's not an unpopular song, but that to me is a moment where it's like, holy shit. They really nailed this.
There are, and I will say this: if you're looking for a small conceit, I was looking at the list of sort of like what there's like one or two of these things on the list that I feel like the use could be falling into the sort of like, oh, this is cool, but not, quote, as you've been putting, transcendent. One of them is Come a Little Bit Closer for Yondu's scene where they're breaking out of the ship.
And I'll tell you the moment. Okay, go ahead.
But I was just gonna say that one, it's like, oh, I get it. Like, you stabbing a bunch of people with an arrow, come a little bit close. It's just like, okay.
And
like,
also, to me, the other one that like is kind of like a little bit jarring, it's like nails on chalkboard kind of as a selection, is Cat Stevens, Father and Son. I was like, that to me is like a moment that is like, you picked the most
I liked that
obvious song about, you know what
because,
I mean?
hey, spoiler alert, they're listening to it on a Zune. I mean, that's important. That's important narrative structure.
Right, but that has nothing to do with the choice of that song.
No, but I like the choice.
But you know what I mean? That song is like, it's a very obvious choice for that. And again, it's good, it's effective, but it's not like, hey, let's write home about this kind of thing.
I think the majority of it is, and I feel like we've talked about this too much. I don't think we're going to change each other's points on this, but I get it. There are moments that there's tiers of the musical use in this film. Yeah. I will say that.
Yeah.
Oh, we got a cat on the table. Great. Hey, everyone on the internet, you can see that.
By the way,
but let's read.
Do we want to address this comment that James Lombardi has done in the?
Oh, we have a chat comment.
Yeah, there's one. I'm kind of looking at this comment slightly bemused.
Okay,
and I'm not sure how.
Where was it?
It was the.
Oh, wow. Yeah, read this comment. Read James's comment. Do you want me to read it?
You can read it. Sure.
Okay, James says, I don't know what the term is for racism towards movies, but whatever the word is, Shahir totally has it towards superhero movies.
Okay, so I'll just say, James, and this is in no way pejorative or meant to be a moment of
Is shit gonna get real?
Conflict, but it is. It perhaps is not the right term to use for a brown person to use for a brown person.
Agreed.
Call something being racist.
I would. I don't think.
But that's not. But that's fine. I'm not mad about that. Here's what I would say. What I think is that there is superhero movies occupy a space in the popular lexicon that is vastly outweighed, that in my opinion has taken up the space for original programming, for original content. Superhero movie. If you look at what we're watching on film and television these days, there is a vast majority of space occupied for superhero films. And my issue with that hasn't got anything to do with superhero films. It has to do with narratives that essentially are based off the Iron Man formula, or and continue to repeat that formula. And unfortunately for me, my point has been always is that tends to make me very bored. Like it's the reason why I get excited about, say, The Dark Knight over a film like Guardians of the Galaxy. It's so it's a reason why I get excited about a film like Logan over Guardians of the Galaxy, is because there's a singular sense of this is a story that needs to be told, not as much of a, hey, remember these characters that we love. And I think that's the reason why I hope I don't come off as combative about it, but that's the reason why I feel that way. And it's a personal thing.
Sure.
I just find myself generally a little. And I'm not. Cool. You're just repeating what
this is what I find, and this is where I'm. This is what I've seen with interacting with you through these films, because I believe that is what. And this is such a dumb statement. I believe that's what you believe. The thing that's interesting, I think, is even the fact that you put Guardians in the group that you feel like is same feeling. That's where I sort of disagree, because there's no question there are same feeling episodes of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, if we even want to call it that. So, there are.
Yeah.
I like them, and you can not like them. That's fine. Yeah. But I think what I always have trouble with whenever we talk about this stuff is I would argue, and I feel like I could if we had more time, that the super samey feeling ones are the lessers. There are lesser of the samey, more same feeling ones than there are of ones that feel tonally different. And I think what you see and feel about this is there are way more similar ones than different ones. So even when we're talking about Guardians, I think Guardians does a bunch of stuff that these movies don't normally do, and I really appreciate it. But even when you just described sort of the reasoning behind it, and I can't fault you. Yeah, these are tentpole franchises. These things take up a lot of advertising, a lot of things that, yeah, maybe a smaller film's not going to get seen because these things exist. I personally don't have a problem with that so much because I am of the belief that you should. We talked about this even last time we were talking about your name.
Yeah.
You should get out of your wheelhouse and you should want to look for things that are different. And if you don't, that's kind of on you. I get it. I get that. Like, how else are you going to know about stuff? But maybe, just maybe, people should just, if that's an issue, just sort of like pick yourself up by your bootstraps and just like go look for a different thing if you're feeling bored. And people like you, people like me, we do that. Not everyone does. So I'd have a hard time feeling bad for people. And I don't think, and it's interesting, I don't think that people are out there actively looking for new stuff. I think they should. So like to say that like these things are filling up the space and now these poor people can't see these other things.
Well, for example, there was an interesting article last week about James Gray talking about the lost city of Z. Have you heard about that film?
Yes, I've heard the name, but I don't know
don't know anything about it. Marvelously reviewed film, beautiful looking film, astonishing epic journey, although some points of conjecture about the actual historical importance of this real character.
Based on an actual event. Beautiful film. James, very, very unwatched film.
Okay. Very, very unwatched film. And James Gray went and had a conversation about this. He said there is a, in the wake of the Marvel, the push for big superhero franchise building movies,
right?
The mid-level film that attempts to do something of scale gets lost. He basically said there are basically indies now, like Moonlight, which has to like break through the wave of indie and low budget films, and there are these giant tentpoles. And the movies that he's trying to make, like the $30, interesting film, the film with resources, but is trying to do something interesting narratively or trying to tell an unusual story, tends to get lost. And that's kind of where our conversations about scheduling are always based upon the tentpole films. And
yeah,
I kind of was like, I wish there was an active conversation and a pursuant of cinema as an art form for trying new things.
And we've been actually trying to do this, guys. So Shahir's been wanting to do this for a bit, and it's going to be coming hopefully in a couple weeks. We're going to be doing a short films episode.
Yeah.
And that's something I'm psyched to do. We're locking in guests and we're doing a bunch of fun stuff with that. I love doing stuff like that. And I rely on you for these things.
Right.
You are the knife which cuts through my normal Hollywood advertising bullshit.
And I am not the most unmainstream person. I do have an affinity for mainstream films. Terminator 2, I think, is one of the masterpieces of big blockbuster films.
Okay,
I really do.
Great. No, I agree that you agree that I agree, but I would not consider you sort of super mainstream.
I think you would be surprised how mainstream some of the things that I like are. It's just that
we've been doing this for a while.
I do make an effort to try and find and champion things that people...
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're getting way off topic. We've been talking for a long time.
I don't think we're getting off topic. I think we're actually getting into the heart of the conversation about this film.
Okay.
Which is the conversation that grows around how to view this film and enjoy it.
Well, let's talk about, we have a good friend, our friend Darren from MTV.
Who wanted to be on this episode.
He wanted to be here. He could not due to scheduling conflicts. So he wrote us in a nice little thing and sort of his general thoughts of the film. I feel like this is as good a time as any to just sort of see what Mr. Darren was thinking.
So he broke it down into, hi Darren, by the way.
Hello.
And, I apologize, Darren, because I think we've actually covered these three topics already.
But I'd like the third opinion.
Okay, so the first one is comedy. What he loved about it is that it was not just snark comedy. Tony, Spider-Man, Deadpool, Wolverine, and Magneto.
You about to say Deadwood?
Deadpool. I was going to say Deadwool. He first off, he absolutely loved Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
As he should.
He didn't love Avengers 2. He didn't love Civil War.
That's insane. Avengers 2, I can understand. Darren, you and I have to have words about
he
Civil
loved
War.
the Civil War, the airport scene, but he didn't think the film was good, not great.
Yeah.
So the three boxes that he thinks this film checks really well. Sure. Comedy, not just snark comedy, which Tony Spidey, Kidwell, Magneto had plenty of, but real laugh out loud comedy. And I 100% agree with this. This has got genuinely funny, belly laugh kind of moments in it. So many action films are worried about losing the stakes of the drama that they're going too deep with the joke, but Gunn pushes it. The wrong eye winking and the scotch tape bits could have been in a Mel Brooks Spaceballs film.
100% true.
The Drax laugh and the taser face bits were also funny, but more Deadpool-esque and snark.
And that's the thing. That's 100% true. Even just referencing Taserface from this movie, I literally had a belly laugh.
Yeah, it's great. It works really well. And
it's real.
And what I love about what James Gunn does is that there's a real rat-a-tat-tat sense of comedy. You know, like
you've used that term a couple times. Tell me what rat-a-tat-tat sense of comedy.
So let's look at the Scotch tape. Let's look at the Scotch tape moment and break it down for a second. So the absurdity of and I have a real thing for comedy. I have a real thing for comedy structure. If anyone's interested, there's a video that Nerdwriter has done recently.
Nerdwriter.
Do you watch Nerdwriter's videos?
Yeah.
Video says he did one about breaking down Louis C.K. jokes.
Yep.
It's really good.
Yeah.
I have a real passion for that. I know it's like counterintuitive to like try and explain why a joke is good, but I think
you can sometimes make that funny.
Well, I think you could, and I just think there's a value to that. Anyway, the Scotch tape moment. There's a couple of things that are happening. First off, the joke is predicated by the fact that Groot can't speak a language and is a baby and doesn't understand kablooey. You know, like doesn't understand what Rocky is saying. So
Rocket. You keep calling him Rocky.
That's because of the song Rocky.
I know.
Yeah. So I love so the joke is already the punchline to a joke that has been happening the entire film. The second thing is that the absurdity of the joke gets escalated because this is in amongst the biggest battle that the crew is having to fight.
And again, we're stepping away from it to see Rocket trying to explain to Baby Groot that he has to run a bomb into a hole that's only big enough for him to push a button to set off a timer that'll be 5 minutes.
And the joke is essentially the same structure of joke as the opening scene, which is Baby Groot dancing in the midst of a big battle. It is the
part of it, yes.
Yeah, that's the irreverent quality of this joke, is that it's about the small human detail that we often don't think about in the midst of a big space
Right.
battle.
So Rocket, basically, there's 2 buttons on it, and Baby Groot keeps getting it wrong after the instructions. So he asks Quill, who's fighting outside along with the rest of the Guardians in a huge space battle, do you have any tape? I want to put some tape over the death button. And Quill's like, if anyone has, you have a nuke. If anyone has tape, it's you. And then he goes and he flies around to everyone. And you just hear him ask everyone if they have tape while Rocket's in this hole.
So from a semantic point of view, like not a syntactical point of view, the brilliance of that joke is the same thing that happens in the opening joke, which is that it is a locked perspective. So we don't see Quill fly off. We just hear it happen, and it's in the background. And what that joke is kind of doing is setting up this sense that the large space spectacle that these films are based on are in no way as important as the minor human absurdities that are required to actually complete this mission.
And that's, again, another thing that I feel like is a strength of this movie. It's less about, and the spectacle is great. The spectacle is spectacle. The spectacle is competent, and it's there, and I really like it. But the reason that I even give a shit about the spectacle is the characters. The reason why Civil War works for me so well is because I care about the characters.
Yeah.
These moments, I feel like this joke, even with Rocket, Quill, Baby Groot, it would not work with characters that I didn't feel like would actually A, have this silly conversation, and B, and again, I have to keep going back to the familial sort of ties. Like, how many times have you tried to explain a piece of tech to a parent or something like that, and you get into these moments where you're like, no, how do you not get? And it's this, like, it's that kind of frustrated you can only be with family, and that really works for me in this moment and throughout the film.
I think Civil War actually had great moments like this during the airport sequence, and it's the reason why the airport sequence works so well, particularly with Spider-Man.
Yep. Where you from, kid?
Yeah, Brooklyn. I'm from Queens or whatever.
Brooklyn.
Yeah. So when I say rat-a-tat,
okay, that's what you mean.
What I mean is there's a layering of jokes that are continuously escalating. It's something that, again, as joke analysis goes, Arrested Development was the absolute genius at doing. Arrested Development got to a point where almost every line in the show was a joke that built upon another joke. And so that's what I mean when I say rat-a-tat. Now, it is very hard to do that kind of comedy. It is very hard to do that kind of comedy in a spectacle that requires this level of competency. You know, like the other thing that we mentioned was Mel Brooks's Blazing Saddles or Spaceballs. The joke in Mel Brooks's Spaceballs is that they don't have the money to do this kind of spectacle. You know, so that's kind of funny. In Guardians of the Galaxy, they have to do this kind of spectacle and can do jokes at the same sort of pace that Mel Brooks can.
Let's finish. I have a thing about the jokes, but let's finish up what Darren was saying.
Dynamic interpersonal real relationships. Compare the relationship between Peter Quill and Rocket versus Tony Stark and Steve Rogers. I think that the relationship in Guardians feels more real and doesn't browbeat you with still love you man type moments. I will agree. I think the thing is that in a weird way, it's the wrong way to use this phrase, much like the comments using the word racist to describe my dislike of superhero films.
Sure.
But in a way, this is a very diverse cast. And I think the interpersonal relationships work because of that diversity. Now, obviously, Peter Quill is a very much a white man, as is Bradley Cooper, as is Drax, as is Groot, I guess, in the phonology of this world. But they are diverse in species, and there's a lot, and I think the way Guardians works well is that it treats those species as very diverse, and the bonds that are formed despite special differences.
Agreed. I do think, but I see his point, but I don't honestly think that the Iron Man Captain America bond it's different, and it's one that's more familiar. But I do think they do an excellent job of making me care about the actual, like that again. I go back to that. I care about those two characters being upset with each other, and and granted, that's been a ton of films coming, but they got me to do it. That means in my head, they did something right. Now, is that fighting with your best friend? Everyone can relate to that. That's a tale as old as time sort of thing. I get that.
Tale as old as time.
But then you're right. This does feel like more diverse sort of problems based around a familial unit as opposed to just one person versus another. And he had one more point about the music, right?
And he had this point about the music, which we've gone over as well. It can't be oversimplified that we haven't had a director with a good ear for music and score since Tarantino in his prime. I 100% disagree with that statement. We knew in the first film he had a great ear for slow-mo badass music, but the inclusion of Cat Stevens in 2 showed his emotional range as well. I got to disagree with using father and son. That is the moment to me where it rang untrue because he picked the most obvious song to signify that. And here's a counterexample that I would use. Go watch The Life Aquatic. The Life Aquatic by Wes Anderson is ostensibly Wes Anderson doing an action movie, and it is a film where Wes Anderson recontextualizes both action movie symphonies with a score by the guy from Devo, Mark Mothersbaugh, who's excellent. It also, he uses Sue George, a Brazilian singer, who is also in City of God, by the way, to recontextualize David Bowie's music. And it works so beautifully in that film. It's an example of someone taking music that we know, recontextualizing it, and giving you kind of like a wow moment. To say that we haven't had a great director who knows music, other than Tarantino, ignores so many filmmakers that I think do it well.
I just think James Gunn does a fucking phenomenal job.
I think he does a very good job. Is he better than Martin Scorsese using music? No. Is he better than Wes Anderson using music?
I'd say Martin Scorsese, maybe. Wes Anderson, that's a tough one.
Is he better than the Coen brothers in the way that they use music?
Yeah.
I would have a real hard time saying
we could get into a longer debate about that. So let's talk about a couple things we haven't talked about. I know we're not going to have time to go through the chronology of the movie, and maybe that's better for it because I do think that some of the more interesting stuff is what we're talking about.
Okay.
But let's talk about some of the additions to the cast, because before we've been talking about a lot of characters that have sort of been around, since this thing has started.
Okay.
Let's talk about Ego. Let's talk about the man, the myth, the legend, Kurt Russell.
Yeah. The opening scene where they de-aged him was really, really well done from a technical point of view.
And did you know? Fun fact, that was about 90% makeup. Kurt Russell has had the same makeup artist for 28 years, and they did 90% of that with practical effects.
Yeah.
So that whole thing was just de-aging basically with makeup. And there's a whole breakdown of how they did it, and it looked great. It looked like young Kurt Russell, and I was like, this is good.
It looked very much like, and not in sort of a plasticky way.
Yeah. Because again, it was practical, which is lovely. Kurt Russell, this is something that I love about Kurt Russell.
Okay.
This is something, and you might contest this about this specific film. He could have just phoned this in. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know whether or not he would, even based on like the first couple scenes he was in. Mm-hmm. But later on, you find out, spoiler alert, that not only is he Peter Quills' father, but he is a celestial and actually a living embodiment of an entire planet.
As the name would suggest.
Yes, Ego, the living planet.
Yeah.
He gives emotional weight to the silliest character I think I've ever sort of seen in one of these Marvel universe. It's a fucking living planet. It's dumb, but there's something about Kurt Russell that, because this is sort of my point. Mm-hmm. He's been in all these interviews, and all these interviewers ask all the stars. He's like clever questions like, "Oh, if you had to live with an Avenger, who would you want to live with?" And they have to answer because it's kitschy and it's the fucking press junket, and like who ever gives a shit. Mm-hmm. Kurt Russell every time has been like, "I don't know who the fucking Avengers are." He's like, I haven't seen an Avengers movie. He's like, I know about my movie.
Yeah.
While I think Kurt Russell, I don't know if he'd like him or not. I would always say for people to go watch the Marvel movies. I really respect that not only does he really not give a shit about sort of the MCU really, but also, even though he doesn't really give a shit about it, he brings his fucking A game like everything he does. And I was just really happy to see him do a great performance for this really silly character.
Yeah. I would agree that he doesn't phone it in, and nobody is phoning it in, because I think they're all working on, maybe it's the fact that they're working with James Gunn, who is a good director. Mm-hmm. I wasn't that taken by his character in this film, and I wasn't that taken by the overall sense of weight that this storyline had, and to sort of single out Kurt Russell as the reason, as elevating that kind of, maybe
he elevated it for me because
I think in a lesser actor's hand it would be, as you say, it would be much sillier.
Yeah.
So I can agree with that point.
There's a moment where it turns, and because I know this, because I pay attention to this stuff, I knew the turn before it was coming.
I knew the turn before it was coming as well, and it didn't surprise me.
But there are a lot of people in the theater, which again, it always shocks me when this happens. They're like, I hear audible gasps when it finds out that Ego is actually the villain. Right. And it's a moment where he's trying to sort of turn Peter to like help him do this thing where he basically wants not only to have him be this planet, but he wants to become all planets. He wants to sort of consume the galaxy and become all one thing that's him. There's
an episode of Rick and Morty which has a character and it's genius what they do with it in Rick and Morty.
So he basically has been going to different planets and planting these seeds, and he needs the power of two Celestials. He keeps trying to do it with children he's parented throughout the universe. It doesn't work, but for some reason Peter's alive and he's going to use him to do it. So then
this plan didn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
It made enough sense from a comic book standpoint.
Yeah,
it really did.
It was that one of those ones where you walk away and you're like,
but the thing is, the reason why something like this I don't have a problem if it's not entirely humanly logical is because we are dealing with basically a celestial. We are dealing with the equivalent of a lowercase g god. We are dealing with things that they are not thinking the way that we would think, and therefore, their plan might not seem logical, but that might be their one driving biological force is to reproduce, really. Right. So this celestial beings thing could be the same thing. Like, everything needs to be me. Like, I don't know. That's just how I sort of see it in comic book logic.
Sure. I guess the thing is that at some point they want to blow it up with guns, but which kind of like, it gets a little weird.
Well, they used to bomb the brain at the center of the planet,
but it's kind of weird because they're on the planet and he is the planet, and I'm like, doesn't he know what they're doing?
Celestial, baby.
Yeah.
Maybe that's nitpicky. But the thing that turned me, and the reason why I bring up Kurt Russell as a thing, is the nonchalant way that as he's trying to convince Peter, that he brings up, he's like, I visited your mother 3 times and I knew if I went back for a 4th that I'd never leave. So, I felt awful, but I had to put that tumor in her brain.
Yeah.
And then Peter
Shoots him
instantly, just freaks out and guns him down.
It's a good moment.
And there's a moment, that moment of nonchalantness and sort of that to me sold not only the entire sort of father turned bad scenario, but Ego's whole thought process and existence. And
he's indifferent to the suffering of human beings.
Yes, but this is something where I feel like you and I differ.
Okay.
On a lot of different things.
Okay.
You're very tall. No.
Okay.
I find, and I think a lot of people do.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not everybody. Probably not everybody.
You're using the sort of arbitrary statistic here.
Sure. I find with these Marvel movies, for whatever reason, most of them, that they connect with me on an emotional level.
Sure.
Now, do they do it in somewhat in a, I don't even want to call it a simplistic way, but do they do emotional puppeteering in a way that would affect the most amount of people without overly trying to be very blatant in the fact that they are trying to do it? And by that I mean like a movie like Moonlight, right, is so expertly crafted, but you know going into that your emotions are going to be like really, like after you see it for a minute, you're like, oh, it's this kind of movie. It's like, oh shit, like, okay, let's go. Mm-hmm. Marvel movies, the emotional equivalent of it in all of them that I've had an emotional response sneaks up on me. And that's something that I value a lot. And it's because I value these characters not only as characters, but as archetypes and almost like moral sort of lessons in different ways and different sort of things. So moments like this with Kurt Russell and Peter Quill, it adds a lot of weight. Same thing with Yondu. So the thing we were talking about before, the second parent thing, is Yondu, and this is why it's not. So in the first one, they're like, he makes the joke. He's like, boys wanted to eat you. They never tasted Terran before. Blah blah blah. Basically, he broke the Ravager code. By the way, Sly Stallone apparently holds up the Ravager code. Mm-hmm. That was fun.
I'm disappointed in this film not doing a Tango and Cash reference.
Yeah, that would have been great. There's a lot of references to some David Hasselhoff stuff. David Hasselhoff does something called Guardians Inferno. It's a song at the end of the film. Stick around past the 5 after credit sequences.
But I'm saying you got an opportunity to put Tango and Cash in a movie.
100%. 100%.
But here's what I would say is, and this is the reason why I agree with you. And let's go 2 for 2. The last 2 Marvel movies we've done have been Civil War and this, right?
Yes.
And I have 100% agreed with you that Civil War has something in it.
We did Doctor Strange. You weren't here.
Oh yeah, and I still haven't seen it.
I just lent it out today, so I'm sorry.
Civil War did something that surprised me, and it did something with the villain of that film,
Zemo,
in a really interesting way. I will say the thing about Guardians of the Galaxy, and the reason why I'm not that taken by Kurt Russell, I think he's a fine actor, is that I think where the movie sits its heart is in Yondu's story. And I'm always happy to see Michael Rooker working.
I love Michael Rooker.
I wrote a paper about Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer when I was in college. So I've been I've been following his career for many years, and to see him kind of like break, and he's a terrific actor, but he's not the kind of, he's a character actor by trade, I guess. He's the, of late, Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer might be the only film where he's been the main guy. I know he's done 1 or 2 others.
Sure.
So to see him have a role where he's given the opportunity to shine in such a meaningful narrative way, that worked for me. I will say the kind of emotional resonance that you're talking about, it did occur to me somewhat during the Yondu reveal and the Yondu narrative. It got diminished by the playing of Cat Stevens, father and son. But
that's a choice. Yeah. But the Yondu thing was really nice because he was sort of a bit player in the last one, and people liked him, especially in the moment where he let the arrow go nuts, and he has another one of those in this movie. But you kind of learn, and it's funny because this movie eventually breaks people off into sort of pairs. Like Gamora and Nebula have a whole, their story is, I think, heartbreaking in the Thanos torture.
In terms of the nexus between your appreciation of movies and my appreciation of movies, do you know what film they were riffing on when, what's her name?
Which one? Nebula? Yeah.
When Nebula attacks Gamora. out in the field.
When she's in the plane, when
Yeah.
she's in the Milano.
Yeah.
I don't know.
North by Northwest.
Oh,
And
was it?
Yeah, it was literally, they literally did they had the exact same shots from North by
Oh, it's
Northwest.
amazing. Idiots.
Yeah, and I was like, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's really cool.
But I think that they did that very well, and you kind of realized that even though Nebula was just sort of one-note villainness in the first movie,
I
like
didn't even realize she was a villain in the previous movie. I completely forgot
because she was cool, but like she was definitely a bit player. She was definitely sort of there for Gamora to have someone to spar with.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, you feel like you figure out the backstory and the torture and how basically Thanos tortured and dismembered her every time she lost in a fight.
Right.
And now she's this weird mechanical thing, and all she wanted was a sister. Like, I thought that was beautiful. Rocket and Yondu, when they're captured when the Ravagers mutiny,
My favorite character in all of this is Rocket.
Yeah, because Rocket is this interesting sort of, I mean, I don't know why I'd be able to relate to this, but it's this mouthy asshole that basically is kind of a dick for no reason a bunch.
Yeah.
And Yondu has this great moment with him when they just sort of clash, and he's like, I can see who you are. I can see right through you, insult, because you're me.
Right.
And it's just this moment where you're like, fuck.
I mean, that moment didn't. I guess I didn't have the memory of the weight of who Yondu was.
It was more of a Rocket moment to be, but the fact that he could look at him sort of as that mirror, and that was sort of Rocket's sort of turning point from being an asshole. Drax and Mantis. Mantis, I feel like she was a funny character. Mm-hmm. She was the least pertinent for me, but they needed someone for Drax to play off of, and I think Drax is the MVP. If Drax is literally the dude holding up like the backbone of the comedy in this, because Batista, holy shit, man, like this is his role. There's no question.
Yeah.
And there's so many different dynamics, and then when the characters interact and crisscross, like the way that they sort of talk to one another outside of these pairings is really nice. Anyway, we've been talking for a long ass time, and I'm sorry I gush about things that I love. But do we just want to do sort of final thoughts and wrap it up?
Well,
or
James in the Facebook thing had been putting in a couple of notes there. I think, do either of you two feel that the jokes were overplayed a bit, that some jokes were used at times that took away from the more serious, heartfelt moments of the movie? I actually think the jokes are the saving grace of the movie. Without them, and without the sort of persistent quality of them, like they're not, they're like the wrong eye joke, wrong eye feels a little bit hokey, but it's repeated enough and kind of works enough.
Yeah.
It's not, it doesn't feel like sort of one-linery to me. So I actually think that the movie plays better because of the irreverent sense of humor of the
and
film.
I think that they show restraint when they need to. Again, that Yondu and Rocket moment, I was expecting a joke at the end of it, and then there was no joke. And the fact that they'd done like serious moment joke, serious moment joke, serious moment joke, then serious moment, let it sit, and you're like, whoa, that makes it more powerful. The thing I didn't like, is kind of what I said before, was the jokes that were just there to throw back to the first joke from the first movie that, again, didn't affect you because you didn't remember them.
But there were certain jokes that just held a lot of delight for me, and I thought they were clever, they were set up, they were well established. And the standout joke for me, although it's absurd that somehow Peter Quill now knows how to use his powers to maximum effect, the moment when he and Ego are battling, and suddenly Peter Quill, turns, because he's like, I'm going to get weird on this shit because I can make anything, becomes Pac-Man.
Yeah.
And I thought that's just a great, and it's quick, and it's done well, and it's set up, and we understand it. The other one was, which is a joke that James mentions, was weird. David Hasselhoff joke during his father's transformation. I think that was clever because it plays into this. It's a joke about the sort of time warp that Peter Quill is stuck in. It's
about his character,
but it also plays off the idea that Ego is whoever you want him to be. He's not a representation of Kurt Russell. This is oddly the second time in cinema history that I can think of that Kurt Russell is used as the model of fatherhood. The other one being in Cameron Crowe's remake of Vanilla Sky, when Tom Cruise looks at Kurt Russell as a father figure.
Yeah.
And this is another meta reference, is because in that film, he's using him as a reference because he reminds him of Atticus Finch from To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah.
So that's the second time. That's a deep cut that I pulled up wut any Google search.
That was good. His hands were not on the keyboard. We have the video evidence to prove it.
Yeah. So Kurt Russell, and maybe I'm pretty sure you would be happy if Kurt Russell was your dad. You love your dad.
I love my dad.
Don't get me wrong.
Let's not,
don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I'm saying,
But if I could have two dads,
yeah,
I definitely want Kurt Russell to be my dad. Kurt Russell.
could like say if your dad and Kurt Russell were married and
Sure.
and they divorced and Kurt Russell was your weekend dad.
That'd be great.
That would be what.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Everyone wants Kurt Russell as their weekend dad.
Literally, Chris Pratt gets to play catch with Kurt Russell in this movie.
Yeah. As is the weekend, and he's actually the weekend dad. He's like turning up like fucking 30 years too late, and he's like
Greatest film of the year.
Yeah, hey, let's go.
Yeah, no, I love Kurt Russell. Everyone knows my penchant for the Escape from New York and Escape from LA. Yeah, and everything he's done, he's been fucking great in everything. But enough about me. Shahir, let's give your final thoughts on this latest chapter in your beloved MCU.
Now, and I've missed a couple of chapters now, but I don't feel like I'm missing.
You are.
Okay. Like I said in the beginning, I think it's a very, to me, it reminds me of when we saw Star Trek Beyond. I think it's a very good episode of the Guardians of the Galaxy series. I like that it doesn't have too much stake in setting up the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which has always been kind of a gripe.
One of your problems.
Yeah, one of my gripes.
Even though they are going to be in Infinity War.
Yeah, even though, they managed to like somehow still maintain a sense of internal narrative, despite, and I do, as much as I think I have been spoiled by Rick and Morty recently in terms of the way in which Rick and Morty takes an idea that is central to Guardians of the Galaxy and in 20 minutes does more with it.
Right.
I like that this story has this sort of weird sentiment to it about,
Sure.
and it's not, there's almost a metaphysical level to the villain. I mean, there's literally a
There is.
but of course we've still got to blow it up with bombs. I think it's fun. It's a solid B+ A- kind of movie for me. Very, very enjoyable. I would argue at this point, I'm trying, and this is the problem that I have with the Marvel Cinematic Universe for me, and I think I do have a fairly strong memory for film. Like if I love something and if it makes an impression, I'm going to remember it.
You have a strong thing for you have a strong memory of things you like. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but I'm saying if something makes an impression on me,
but you like it to have an impression. It's chicken and the egg.
And I guess I'm saying the Marvel Cinematic Universe for me personally doesn't make a strong impression. I would maybe say that this is the strongest impression in the Marvel Cinematic Universe for me, possibly. I think it's very.
It does a lot,
and I'm saying that more than Guardians of the Galaxy 1.
Yeah, it does a lot because it's nice because even though you didn't remember Guardians of the Galaxy, you're still familiar enough with the characters to know. Okay, these are the 5 people I'm supposed to like. Right. It felt comfortable. It felt homey almost. It's just sort of like I
will say I don't see this in 3D. The 3D is done very well, but it tends to have this sort of flattening effect for me, which is contradictory to what 3D should do.
Yeah,
it doesn't make it immersive for me. It makes it feel cardboard cutout for me.
Yeah, because it wasn't shot in 3D.
I believe it was.
Was it?
Oh, I don't know. There's a feature right now because it was shot in 8K in the new Red 8K, and I'm currently shooting. I just finished a project on the Red, and I'm shooting a project on the Alexa, and I'm having like lots of debates about the difference between the two things.
Well, just call James Gunn.
I'll just call James Gunn and say, hey, man, I'm thinking about shooting my next commercial on the Red 8K in 3D IMAX.
Can you come over for the weekend?
Yeah, can you just help me out?
Hey, could you bring Kurt Russell? I mean, just to come hang out.
Just come hang out.
Just attack that in for me and see.
I got a friend who needs a weekend dad, and, like they could play catch, they could make hot dogs. We
could both dress up like Snake Plissken. It would be great.
Yeah, and judging by the way you say Kurt Russell responds in press interviews, I'm sure he'll love this.
Kurt Russell doesn't give a shit about me. He doesn't give a shit about me, and that makes me love him more.
He's nigging you into like complete adoration.
Look, he may be my cinema father, but he's not my daddy.
I hope. Yeah, that's my position on the film.
All right. I mean, look, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed all the character work that went into it. Like I've said, the relationships again, which is why I think the MCU stands out for me in a world of franchises and nonsense that I like normally just on like, oh, this is a fun sort of okay thing. The MCU stands out for me. And when they do things like this, where they break their own sort of mold a little bit, it really makes me care and love the world that they're building. It makes me worry further about Infinity War and the future of the third thing, because I don't understand, and I hope I'm wrong, how they can keep the same level of emotional gravitas. Like, it seems like to do this for me, to have Guardians work as well as Guardians Volume 2 work as well as it did for me, a lot of plate spinning. I think people are going to run out of hands, run out of sticks, and run out of plates. Like, I don't know how they're going to be able to do it.
What I like about this film is it doesn't make me care about the extended Marvel.
I know that. I know you say that. But what I'm saying is because this film is so good and so much is going on, it makes me worry that when it all folds into itself, and I've said this to you before, this is straight up, and I will admit this. If they drop the ball on tying this all together and it's not good,
I don't think they will.
I hope not. I will be the first one to call it out. I know I come off as very fanboyish. I understand that. But as we're getting closer, I am getting more worried.
Okay.
That this
You're
thing,
worried about,
this thing I put so much faith in that I think they can do is gonna collapse.
You know what I'm thinking of when you're saying you're worried? I'm thinking of Marvel. What was it, Kevin Feige? I'm thinking of Feige sitting in a room like Woody Harrelson in Zombieland, crying with his pockets of money at your concern.
Yeah,
I think.
But again, you're interpersonalizing a concern that I'm having. I don't think the other people give a shit about this. I'm just talking about my own thing with the thing I'm presented. I don't care. I don't give a fuck if they care about me.
I'm more worried. I guess from a fanboyish point of view, if Game of Thrones drops the ball, because
it's the same thing.
Right?
It is because you've put so much belief and effort and kind of love into watching of a thing. If they don't pay it off, there is a bit of you that's going to feel like, it's going to listen the things I loved about the previous. Yeah.
And
that's a hard thing. And again, I don't know. Anyway, back to this movie. I loved it. I think the soundtrack's wonderful. The colors are beautiful. The effects work is great. Characters were doing things that I didn't think I'd care about. They made me care about it a bunch. I will see this movie a bunch. I will buy it. I will keep watching it. And it's literally some of my favorite characters I've seen on a screen. Like, it's just really, 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 really fun. And even beyond its problems, beyond its sort of stupid callbacks and maybe a pacing issue. Again, I have to see it again to make sure I wasn't like sort of reading into a technical issue for that sort of pacing issue in the beginning.
Yeah.
But yeah, I go see it. It's making a bunch of bank.
I'm sure. Maybe go see The Lost City of Z while you're out there.
Go see both. Go see both. You got some disposable income. I know you. Shahir, when you're not.
Come on, pull it out. What do you got?
When you're not
what do you got?
kind of backwardsly, but less so than usual, complimenting a Marvel movie, where can folks find you?
Do I do that often? I wonder.
This is the most you've done it politely.
Okay. You can find me politely commenting on cinema and film at my website at www.shahirdaud.com. That's SHAHIRDAUD.com. That has links to all my Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. I have a cool music video coming out. Not the robot music video. Still got a little bit of delay on that, but I have a cool MMA style music video coming out.
It's very cool. I've seen clips.
Oh, and we just wrapped that up today, of all things. I'm very excited about that.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So that should be out in a few weeks' time. Matt, when you are not drenching in the tears of Kevin Feige's royalty chicks, where can people find you on the internet?
There's no better way to clean your body. You can find me at Matthew Kroll, MatthewKroll.com for my life and works. Also, I've been doing more and more voiceover work. You can find me on there. You can contact me.
As Ivan Kanda said, you have the voice of God.
I mean, that's terrifying. I have the
if
lowercase g.
If Ego comes back as a character in Infinity Wars, they should use you as the voiceover artist.
I'm your dad, Peter.
Then you would have to compete with Orson Welles from the Transformers animated film.
When he was Unicron.
Unicron, yeah. Exactly. I mean, that's the kind of level of planetary voice work that you're going to have to compete with.
Also finished by Leonard Nimoy, I think, when he passed away.
Oh, was it really?
I think so.
I didn't know.
Anyway, you can also find me at Skeletor, the number 4, PREZ on Instagram, or Emperor MSK on Twitter. Also, guys, please, if you like what you hear, if your ears are singing to us praising kind of sort of halfway a Marvel film, please leave us reviews on iTunes. Everyone in the chat who's here right now, I can see you all. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate that.
If you could, you're right at your computer. You're right there. Go leave us, even if it's just like, this was neat, and some stars.
James. Go to iTunes, James. We're looking at you, James. We're looking at you, buddy. Go right to iTunes right now.
We would really appreciate it. It does. It helps us get eyeballs on us, earballs, however you want to put it. And tell your friends. Just keep passing us around. Just keep doing it.
I have inappropriate jokes I could make about that, but I'm not gonna.
What's wrong? Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm not feeling myself today. It must be the mango tea that I'm sipping on.
You've been sipping for about an hour and a half.
A very good friend of mine. Well, he might not consider himself a very good friend of mine, but he's written into us. He listens to us.
I love that.
Rafael da Silva, a very smart man who lives in Scotland now.
You're doubting if this man considers you a friend.
Well,
he's
written into us to ask us our opinions on movies. And
sure.
We actually owe him a film. He's asked for 2 films.
Which ones?
He's asked for Inception.
Oh.
And he's also asked for the Noam Chomsky, The American Dream, Requiem for an American Dream.
Okay. So first one's going to be a lot of...
The second one's going to be very quiet talking. And look, Rafael, I'm very nervous to do the Noam Chomsky one because, I don't even want to say this actually because I know...
Say it.
No, I don't want to say this because Noam Chomsky is a personal hero of mine and I feel like he is at the end of his...
That's fine.
He's coming to the end of his...
There's nothing wrong with that.
...time, and I'm very saddened by that because he is a personal hero.
Things aren't beautiful because they last you here.
But at any rate, we will get to those films at some point. Rafael and another friend who I don't think listens to the show, Randy Kipp.
Then no friend of mine. Just kidding, Randy.
2 very smart doctors in medicinal chemistry or organic chemistry.
Whoa!
Oh, actually, no, biochemistry. I believe.
Could you hook me up with some super soldiers?
They could totally Hulk us out if they.
I don't want to Hulk out. I want Steve Rogers level. I don't want to be the fucking Hulk. I don't need gamma rays in my life.
These are the 2 guys that could totally do that. The other thing that they did is they introduced me to a song which they would drunkenly sing many a time when I was over at their place. And that
when you were busy not being their friend?
When I was busy not being the drunk guy. I was basically just sitting there listening to them sing this song.
Drinking this same mango tea.
Drinking my mango tea. And they would sing Rocky Raccoon by the Beatles.
White Album, right?
Yeah, the White Album. And it's a terrific song. And it's also the origin of the name Rocket Raccoon. I'm waiting for the next film, which becomes my favorite character, Rocket Raccoon, becomes a central player, and they pick this song to play. Maybe they can't afford the royalties for this song.
I bet you they couldn't.
I bet you they could. Kevin Feige's tears could probably afford the royalties on this song.
Not with all the bathing I do. They could not afford it.
Paul McCartney is holding out for at least for them to cross the $1 billion threshold before he gives them the rights to this song. But this is the basis upon which Rocket Raccoon, my favorite character from Guardians of the Galaxy, name came from. It's a wonderful song. It's a song that I have sung to my son, which is odd because it's a song about 2 people in a gunfight.
I don't think that's odd at all. Is that weird that I don't think that's odd?
But no. Rocky had come equipped with a gun to shoot out the last of his rivals.
Oh, man. We're really going to be able to jack up our prices if we're 2-time movie reviewers / singers.
Well, that's all I'm going to sing, by the way. So
we'll see you next week. Just for everyone, remember real quick, we are Groot.
We are Groot.
We are Groot.